radio station.
Hello and thanks for staying with us. Welcome to Political Platform on Raypower FM. My name is Amechi Anakwe. It's a Tuesday, the day the African Democratic Congress, ADC, is expected to hold its national convention. Now, every other thing about this convention has been quite controversial at Debo Bodore. From the day, letters were sent to INEC notifying them of the intention of the party, the electoral access, you must do it 21 days before that. They did that, but INEC at some point withdrew recognition given to the leadership of the party, citing court order. So INEC, through its chairman, Professor Joash Amupito, said they will not be attending the convention. INEC usually attends convention, but the argument of ADC officials is that what the law says is inform INEC that INEC should not and must not necessarily attend that. What the law says explicitly is inform INEC and you may have fulfilled all the obligations. INEC chairman in an interview had reminded ADC of the implications of going ahead with today's national convention. You risk not fielding candidates for the 2027 general election. Yesterday, DC caucus in the House of Representatives went beyond the call for the sack or resignation of INEC chairman, insisting he must be prosecuted. In the meantime, ADC officials, it was like cat and mouse game between them and FCT officials. They alleged initially that they approached the FCT for authorization to pay for and use the Ego Square in Abuja for their convention. Ego Square was where the APC recently held their convention. They said it was denied. They went for their second option, the Velodrome of the National Stadium. It was denied. There were even reports that they approached a five-star hotel in Abuja, Transcorp, and it was denied, alleging pressures from FCT authorities. Transcorp had to come out to deny that such a thing ever happened. But the cat and mouse game, Adeba Abodri were following yesterday up to early hours of this morning to know where ADC will be having his convention. They eventually settled for a private event center in Abuja, Rainbow Event Center in Gariki district of the territory. But as soon as we heard that news that they have settled for that, the publicity secretary of the party, Bolaji Abdullahi, alleged that there are pressures from FCT authorities on the owners of the private event center to cancel the booking. If not, they say, the event's operating license would be revoked. And so FCT minister was also forced to deny these allegations yesterday, saying as far as it's concerned, no communication from ADC has come to either his office or any other agency of the Federal Capital Territory. But ADC responded by publishing an acknowledged copy of a request sent to the office of the minister. Adeba Abodori, interesting, but to me, disturbing developments. I believe that indeed our democracy should have gone beyond this level of this cat and mouse game. Whoever is right or wrong, we don't know, but I know what I know is that we have gone beyond this level.
Yeah, Amishi, good morning, and then good morning to our listeners and those watching us on the YouTube. You see, we keep on clapping, chest beating, celebrating. We have had over 2.5 decades of uninterrupted democracy. Yes, a milestone, a major achievement. But the processes of deepening democracy beyond these 2.5 decades, I don't see the sign. That's the truth. The politics of the dirty politics of both of the First Republic and Second Republic combined are being seen by modern day politicians.
So it's not new in our politics.
Yeah, who are supposed to learn, who are supposed to have learned. It's unfortunate that we keep on referring to Nigerian politicians that they have learned nothing and forgotten nothing, because it's evident from the way we are doing. The use of the deployment of power and misuse of it, for me, it bothers me. It is not a process of deepening democracy. In those days, as a young Nigerian, keenly interested in political developments in Nigeria, when I was not even a journalist then, as a student, I used to beat my chest. Nigeria can never be one of those banana republics in Africa. We can never. Things like this will never happen here. But it is happening. Seaside syndrome is seen in this Fourth Republic. You know, even though in 1974, that same seaside syndrome was killed by Nigerians when the then military head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, wanted to extend his stay in office. There was outcry. But in this Fourth Republic, there was third term agenda, which was a process of institutionalizing the culture of seat-tight syndrome in Nigeria, because the president and the governors were supposed to benefit. So those things I was condemning as a kid, saying that we can never be a banana republic. It's happening, and we are seeing it. So some of the actions that we are seeing back and forth, we wrote a letter, you didn't write a letter, nobody approached us, and all this thing like that. These are politics. They are political game that is not helpful for us. You know, a thorough in a decent society, a thorough investigation will be carried out to the allegation of ADC and the response from
you quoted the Second Republic. Even in this Fourth Republic, we have seen such a thing. AMPP, then versus PDP. These things also came up.
Yes, a lot of things are happening, and you see, it's desperation for power. If you look at it, 2013, 2014, 2015, if APC was muscled completely by Jonathan, they will never win that election.
They will not have been registered as a merger.
He get every hand. He allowed them to operate freely. They used Eagle Square. Even when they were to have their presidential primary, they first chose Abuja and later on they moved it to Lagos. Nobody stopped them. So this democracy, which some Nigerians pay supreme sacrifice for, we did not get this democracy on platter of gold. Some Nigerians lost their lives in those protests over June 12th. And so nobody must truncate it. It must be different. It must be different in a way that Nigerians will benefit from it. And we can only benefit from it when there is good leadership and good governance. That is what we asked for. That is why this democracy was fought for. So those who stayed on the sidelines and never play any key role, who are political leaders today, are now working hard to see how they will truncate the process. They will not succeed in Jesus' name. Because
did I hear you say amen?
Because some Nigerians lost their. Where is Shima Obani, my good friend today? Where is Bagaudra Kato? These are people whose lives were killed. They were young men who were killed for fighting for democracy.
I understand the emotions shown by Adebo Abode, because himself, he fought for democracy. He fought the military. He was hounded. He was hiding, just as ADC and FCT officials were doing hide and seek. We go to this center, you make a call, allegations of you stopped, I didn't stop you. That was the same way Adebo Abode was moving, using night bus I don't know whether you climbed, you were hidden in a 911
No,
lorry.
the normal thing then is to travel by night bus. It's safer to travel by night bus than travel in daytime. Daytime, they will see you, they will arrest you.
You were running across Nigeria and they were on your trail. That's what he did. So when he speaks with such emotions, you can understand, because he sweat, his freedom. He faced hardship and helped to dethrone the military and enthrone democracy. So when he feels democracy is being threatened, yes, he speaks the way he does. And I'm just recounting this story so that I can understand the background. But whatever it is, I consider it petty. Whoever is right, whoever is wrong, any of them could be right or wrong, or both of them. Is too petty. I think we have outgrown that. At the level of our democracy, there are things that shouldn't constitute a problem for us.
We shouldn't we should be about it.
US is talking about welcoming the crew of Artemis 2 that orbited the moon, and are planning Artemis 3 to land human on the moon since 1962 and all that. Other nations are indeed making progress. Look at Iran, ordinary Iran. Their drone technology is the one they have used to fight US to a standstill. Nobody expected it 20 years ago. But here, instead of celebrating our achievements in democracy, we should be exporting democracy to the rest of the world, to the rest of Africa, including the Asiatic and South American countries where democracy, the standard of democracy is quite lower than what we have here. Instead of doing that, is bad news that is emanating from our polity.
Nelson Mandela made one statement, and that statement resurfaced on the social media last week. He said, the day Nigerian gets it right, Africa has started its route to greatness. The day Nigerian gets it right.
And when is that day?
When is that day?
It's sooner than later.
Very worried.
Let's welcome Rena. But before Rena comes, we'll take a break to have your mails. After the mails, we'll go to our YouTube channel to share some of what you're telling us. But one thing is clear. Power, political power is transit, is a visitor. When you wield it, I always say on this program, use it maximally. Don't use it in a maximum form. Because today you're in power, tomorrow you'll be out of power. And the cane, they say they used to beat the first wife. When the second wife, the new wife, bride comes in, she will be like, oh, I'm the maiden of the house, but she wouldn't know. Someone will point the roof of the bureau and say, this is where they kept the cane they used on the first wife. It will be used on you very soon. But I don't think that applies now. Feminists will tell you it was decades ago that they were flogging wives, that today don't think of it. But I brought it up just to send a message. A message is that you're empowered today, is a visitor. It comes and goes, and when you're out, don't shout on top of your voices. The other day on our newsroom, I was having a conversation with a colleague. We were talking about the continued detention of Nasir El-Rufai, former governor of Kaduna State, and I was raising issues of justice delayed is justice denied. I was thinking and saying, bail is the right of every Nigerian, that you should presume people innocent. And that's why bail is given. But I was not quite comfortable with the fact that he was kept in detention for months now and other. But he did perpetrated worse human rights violations. And to him, he doesn't spare any sympathy for Nasir El-Rufai. But my comment to him, my conclusion was that I'm not after El-Rufai's comfort. I'm after human rights situation. It could be El-Rufai, it could be any other person, but last, like we say in local slang, we must abide by the rule of law, irrespective of what has happened in the past. Let's take this commercial break now, and when we come back, Rena is ready with your mails.
On behalf of the council,
Welcome back, and this is now the mail segment on Political Platform. I am Ono Shorena Obozege.
And I am Olamide Ario. Thanks for joining us.
We have our first mail from Lagos State, sent in by Ugochukwu Godwin, and it says, ADC held the state congresses, and in about 13 states, there are 2 or 3 different congresses with each claiming statutory right to the executive position. Is this a problem of INEC or an internal wrangling because of lack of party democracy? In Nasarawa State, the 2 factions blamed PDP as the cause of their disintegration. In Adamawa, 2 factions emerged. Instead of blaming APC, PDP, INEC, and others, ADC should look themselves in the mirror. As our people say, he who fetches infested firewood invites reptiles for a feast. As Bayo Bodurin says always, parties now engage in transactional politics, and ADC captured the executive, who reportedly resigned, but they already have an existing structure. It will take a lot of persuasion and force to remove the original members. Parties across board should practice internal democracy, or we are doomed.
And to security matters, Omolayo John from Morozo in Abuja says it is a national embarrassment for terrorists to gain upper hands and lynch terror on military personnel. The military is trained to protect the nation but can't protect themselves. Minister of Defense is now a politician, and money meant for security votes spent on what? God bless Nigeria.
Amen. And from Alimosho in Lagos is Emmanuel Nkama. He says, please, I crave your indulgence to observe that the Nigeria Air Force killing scores of civilians in Borno Market and Yobe border accidentally is quite unfortunate and like adding insult to injury. 1 killing and death too many. However, the governor of Borno State, Zulum, and the military have justified the airstrikes, saying that the market was long ago closed as terrorists used it as a launching pad. Sadly enough, the military justification of the NAF airstrike could be true, and some terrorists killed. But what happens to the scores of innocent civilians who have been accidentally killed? Here is appealing to the military to always carry out a thorough, diligent survey before embarking on any airstrikes to avoid this kind of collateral damage. More importantly, the military personnel need proper training and to show high sense of professionalism expected from it to avoid tarnishing their image. This is because it's not profitable curing eye infection or disease with pepper-infected hands. It's better to free 10 criminals than to convict 1 innocent accused person.
Mark Patrick Linus from Kubo in Abuja says, last night I watched a video of a young man who was kidnapped and taken captive along Jos Kaduna Road, and I have not been able to sleep. Images from the clip traumatized me throughout the night till daybreak. Social media posts from close associates to him I've read shows his name is John, a student of University of Jos who fell victim to the hands of these daredevil monsters while traveling on a death trap pathway called Nigerian Road. Apart from ransom placed at 30 million naira for his release, he was being extremely tortured, dehumanized in a manner I have never seen in my life before. The flogging, hitting, heavy stone placed on his back, and being threatened with AK-47. The torture was just too much for the young lad, who continued to plead for help so they don't murder him. This is almost 24 hours since the video hit the internet, yet no statement from any security agencies, neither any from state or federal government. I beg the government to immediately deploy intelligence and rescue this boy before they kill him.
And that's everything on the mail segment. Please continue to send them to politicalplatform@darkgroup.com.
Thank you so much for the mails, and we go to the YouTube. Ojonuwa Echie says a big amen to Adebayo's Bodure's prayers. The Balogu, the prayer you offered, is it to the Almighty High or the gods of the land? As Balogu of Ekiti, you need to clarify this. Is it the gods of our land or the Almighty High up there?
It's our creator.
Or both of them?
It's our creator.
Okay, a lot of meme coming from viewers on YouTube. Solomon Nenit and Caruson Carlos. So it's so painful that people die fighting for this democracy that the APC says are trying to destroy. Hiki Atuyo says this is not how to practice democracy. Charles Michael Obodo is asking President Donald Trump to come and correct the errors in this country. Somebody was quick to tell him, no, we don't need that. We have what it takes to be self-correctional. Ugochukwu Anusiangu says, Amechi, remind Adebayo Bodore that Jonathan used the DSS to hop on the APC data center, even confiscated newspaper offices and stop distribution. We quickly forget things. Jonathan was not a saint. Other countries are producing quality products. That's coming from Carlos. I think I've read his mail. The other person is asking about Hadiz Audu and Ijoma Samo. Well, one day, that's Maxwell Eleko 14. You may see them.
Well, it is true. It is true that newspapers were confiscated. But one remarkable thing about it was that when there was public outcry, the newspaper houses were paid for the papers that were impounded from their respective offices.
Who paid? The government?
The government. Although it's not something that is good, but at least there are people that were impounded, they paid them for it. But in the first place, they are not supposed to do it. At least, and then there was apology. So it's not as if one is trying to project Jonathan as if there were no missteps when he was in power. But one is pointing out is that he took some steps that helped to deepen our democracy. He appointed somebody he had never met in his life as national chairman of INEC, Professor Atahiru Jega. He has never met him. He appointed him and he gave him a free hand.
You're right.
Those are steps, very good steps, both steps that were taken to deepen our democracy. And that is what we are asking for.
Well, you're quite right. He's not a saint. There were several missteps he took, and at each point we'll try to recount them. But the thing is, overall, he was tolerant. And you can't take it away. Facts are sacred. And that's why up to today, he's revered and adored across the world. He's been celebrated as an epitome of democracy. It's a fact. When he's invited to have almost every other world capital, and the world knows why they're doing so, because they know, yes, he wasn't a saint. He did some, there were some shortcomings while he was in office, but overall, it's something that you should celebrate, and the world is still celebrating him. Well, let's move on now to yet another killing of a senior military officer, this time a colonel. Is it a military colonel? A colonel. IED, he was moving his men as reinforcement to a location that is under attack and improvised an explosive device. They ran into one that the terrorists, and again, who have lost such a prominent figure. Yeah. Very sad indeed.
Colonel I.A. Mohammed, very sad. We commiserated with the family. He's a gallant officer, died in course of serving this nation, and we pay tribute to him for his gallantry. But like I always say on this program, our tendency of lamentation, of commiseration, of tons of press releases, giving promises that this thing will soon come to an end, I think it's high time we have a rethink. For me, I think we are no longer fighting insurgents on banditry. I'm not a military tactician. I've never studied anything in that respect, but I've read a few books on war tactics. For me, what we are facing is not different from a war, because these guys are launching attacks on us. They are using drones. They are bombing places. There is massive killing. So we cannot take that one for sure that it's just an attack. It's not an ordinary attack. And so we need to thoroughly have a rethink. When General Musa was appointed defense minister, there was a general euphoria all over the country that at least a professional is stepping into that office, I think we need to see more action from him. We need to gain from his
It appears the fire has died down.
Yeah, we need to gain.
We need to rekindle that fire.
We need to gain experience from. We need to gain from his experience as a military officer.
We felt his impact more as Chief of Defense Staff than Minister of Defense. One is a professional military position. The other is a political position.
And so I do hope that he has his name has entered history book. How will he be written at the end? In what way will he be written? That is a call on him to think seriously of what steps he will take, and remember that history will remember him in future.
Well, I can't remember a nomination for a ministerial position that was celebrated as much as this. Greatest majority of the country hailed that move. But since then, like I said, when you light, if you use a local, if you're cooking in the rural areas, you bring firewood, light a fire. At some point, the fire goes down when you retrieve your pot. But the fire has not gone entirely. It's still deep down in the log. And if you have need, even when the rains have not, especially when the rains have not fallen, you have the need to rekindle that fire. You have to fan the flame to ignite that fire. That's what we are trying to do here. The fire in the belly of retired General Christopher Musa is weighing, and we are trying to. You can use your mouth to blow the fire, but you risk getting some particles into your eye. And of course, you can also use a fan to do that. Whatever, we have to. Indeed, he needs to bring in his expertise into the office before him now. We believe in his capacity, and we know he has the capacity to do so. Quickly, let's talk about the import duty policy of this administration. There's been reduction in import duty of some items, rice, vehicles, and all that.
Well, before I go to that, let me quickly say one thing about political office holders. As a young Nigerian, I used to go to Malamino Kano's house because he adopted me like a son.
In Kano.
And one day I asked him, I say, Malam, this is your friend who was a firebrand socialist when he was a lecturer in University of Lagos. Then he joined politics, prison socialism.
Committed class suicide.
And he has joined, I say, he has joined FPN. He looked at me, he said, every day you gain from me. He said, he used one word. He said, partisanship can blindfold the most articulate mind. I do hope that partisanship will not take away the fire which we are talking about from General Musa, that he should realize the fact that Nigeria is looking up to him. Well, the issue of import duty, I am worried. We need food, yes. We need food in this country. But the gradual tendency to kill our achievements, because that is what I will use, to kill our achievements in local rice production is worrisome. The rice farmers will no longer be enthusiastic to plant more rice. The rice mills, if care is not taken, they will rot away.
Okay.
So when we now bring down import duty on rice and keep on importing rice, I hope you will remember history. That one time in the history of this country, there was cement armada. There was also rice armada. That was at a time when there was massive importation of cement and rice in this country that blocked our port.
Okay.
And so we must remember the necessity for us to think deeply of growing our food locally.
That's achieving food security.
Food security.
When the first initial ban
was lifted.
They
said it was
bringing rice.
It was supposed to be for a period.
Yes, for an initial period. Those that are other listeners will recall what I said. I said, I'm not against what the government did, but I'm not happy with the actions, follow-up actions that are not taken. Now, if you believe that food prices are high, you can import, but in importing, the danger to the local farmers is that they will be driven out of business. I recommended strongly to the government, be off takers at a fixed price to our farmers so that they are not driven out of business. And I don't think that was done. Rice farmers are crying, rice mills are closing down. You can't rely on importation forever, because the implication is that you bring in cheap price, and when they go through all the excruciating pains and experiences buying implements, fertilizer at high prices, by the time theirs get to the market, it will be times two the price of the imported one. So the implication is that you drive them out of business, and when you drive them out of business, the little capacity you have managed to increase. That was what Buhari did. He outrightly banned importation of rice, hoping that we can improve local capacity. So the gains made by Buhari that time has been wiped away. So governments, I'm not saying don't reduce, but bring out mechanisms to protect local farmers. Pay them money. You have to find ways, ingenious ways, to keep them in business, because if they go out of business, you'll be worse off than where you were even before you started that free importation policy. That's what government should still do. It's not late. We need to salvage our local farmers. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a good time on behalf of Adibara Bodri. My name is Amechi, and enjoy your day.